So welcome back, Year 9s. I hope you've had a nice Easter, good break and ready to get back into some learning. So we're going to be focusing today on doing some writing to advise, or that's what we're going to be doing this week, and looking at how we write in a formal style for today's lesson. Obviously, as well as the work that I'm putting on YouTube for you, there's also read theory to be doing. You can be getting on with some reading. Read anything on the internet, read books, read newspapers, anything you can get your hands on. The more you can read, the better it will be. Now, when we're doing writing to advise, you'll find that we use some of the same techniques that we used in persuasive writing. So to start us off, we're just going to have a bit of a recap on fear rises, okay? So what I'd like you to do is to write down those letters and then try and write next to it what persuasive technique they stand for. So pause this while you do that. Okay, so our answers then. Facts and opinions, emotive language, addressing the audience directly, repetition, rhetorical questions, rule of three, imperatives, superlatives, exaggeration, and short sentences. So that's what they all stand for. So we're going to look at some different types of sentences. Just to make sure we're really clear, we talk about simple, compound and complex sentences. You may not be fully sure what they all are. So let's have a look. Simple sentences then consist of just one main clause. For example, life can be difficult for parents. It's an effective way to begin a text because it provides a clear and simple introduction to a topic. Complex sentences consist of a main clause and a subordinate clause. Remember, subordinate clauses don't make sense on their own. They need to have a main clause with a verb in it to fully make sense. So it's important to talk and listen to them when you are available. Okay, so we've got a complex sentence there. The main clause is in black. The subordinate clause on its own doesn't make sense when you are available, but it does make sense when it's added to the main clause. And that's just explained underneath for you. Subordinating conjunctions then. They're used to link a main and a subordinate clause in a sentence. We've got words like who, which, when, while, whereas, if, although, because. Okay, so what I'd like you to have a go at doing is creating two complex sentences that include a subordinating conjunction. So you've got a main clause that does make sense on its own. Then you're using one of those words in the examples, who, which, when, while, whereas, if, although, and because, and then adding on a subordinate clause that does not make sense on its own. So we've got an example here. Drugs can be dangerous, which is why parents do not want their children to experiment with them. So have a go at writing two complex sentences of your own that include a subordinating conjunction. Imperatives. So we've done these when we were doing our persuasive writing. Instructions or commands. Talk with them about their feelings would be an example. These are particularly effective when writing to advise or persuade, as they instruct the reader what to do, and they're used especially in advertising. So when you're watching the telly, have a look at the adverts, look at when and how they're using imperatives. So our third type of sentence, we've done simple sentences, we've done complex sentences. Here we've got compound sentences. And there, when we have two main clauses joined together with a coordinating conjunction, such as and, so, or but. Listen to your children and make time for them every day. You can see the two bits in black, listen to your children. That makes sense on its own. Make time for them each day. That also makes sense on its own. Two main clauses put together with a coordinating conjunction makes a compound sentence. So we're going to finish off for today's work with a quiz on sentences. And all I'm going to do is put some different sentences up on the screen, and you've got to try and decide whether it is a simple, compound or complex sentence. Here we go. First one, I ran home. That was a simple sentence. My teacher was angry, but she didn't give me a detention. So that was a compound. We've got the word but in the middle. It joined together two main clauses. Although her feet hurt, Jane carried on running. So that was a complex sentence. We've got a subordinate clause and a main clause. It's not always the case that the main clause has to come first. In that example, we've got the subordinate clause first. The dog ran around barking loudly. Okay, a complex sentence because we've got that extra information, barking loudly. If it just said the dog ran around, it would be simple. But barking loudly is a subordinate clause that adds extra information and makes that into a complex sentence. I love English. I'm sure you all feel that way. Simple sentence. I love English because my English teacher is so lovely. Again, I'm sure you all agree with that. Compound sentence. So we've got the word because in the middle of it, joining the two main clauses. Okay, so we're going to leave it there for today, and next time we will start using some of that information, some of those different sentence types and the persuasive techniques when we're beginning to write to advise.